how to manage your wedding finances. So this is a really difficult, hi Kelly. It's a really difficult subject to talk about actually, because everybody's budgets are different, right? And actually some people don't have a budget planner. Some people don't have a budget in mind. So how can you manage something that you don't have? So I'll give you an example, okay? You get engaged, brilliant. You start wedding planning, you sit down, you talk about your budget. And it might be, oh, well, we can afford to put aside this much each month, for example. Morning, Crescent Temple Barnes. And that's the money that you've got. For some people, hi Demi, for some people, they already have money put to one side, or they've got family members that are willing to help them out, which is brilliant. But my point is, if you don't know what you've got to start with, how can you manage your finances along your wedding planning journey, okay? So the first thing you need to do is have a budget planner. How you do this is entirely up to you, okay? It could be a really basic, simple Excel spreadsheet if you're quite handy with those, and you can just put down your details on there. You might just have a million post-it notes all over your kitchen. Whatever works for you, as long as you know you're going to stick to it, use that. I actually have a free budget planner that I'm more than happy to send to you. So if you do want that, pop onto my Instagram page, look at my link in bio, and that will take you to where you can get my free budget planner. It's really important you keep an eye on it. It can be quite overwhelming. So my budget planner takes into account almost every single thing that you would need to buy for a wedding. So you could look at it and go like, oh my God, there's a lot on there, but there is a lot. You know, I think people forget that, you know, it's not just the venue and the dress and the suit and the flowers and the cake and the photographer. There's lots of sort of little other elements that come into it, and it's easy to forget that. And that's why then you don't stick to your budget, you can't manage your wedding finances, and that's when things start spiraling out of control. Okay, so have a budget planner, track what you've got coming in, track what you've got going out. It will make it so much easier for you to monitor what you're spending, when, etc., etc. My second point is don't spend what you don't have. Hi, Chris. Don't spend what you don't have. So I'm a huge advocate of saying this to people, because I don't believe that you should get into debt for your wedding. That's my personal opinion, and everybody is different. But I don't think, hi Emma, I don't think you should get into debt, because money is one of the biggest factors of arguments, let's face it. And what you don't want to do is, after this massive high of your wedding day, to then afterwards have this huge come down where then you're struggling to pay for that debt. So it just causes problems, and there's no need for it. So if you are going to get support and help with your finances for your wedding, what strongly suggests is you get a loan rather than a credit card. And the reason I say that is because there's more responsibility when you're paying off a loan. With a credit card, you can reduce your monthly payments. You can you can say, oh, well, we want to have a holiday this month, so let's just reduce the payments on the credit card and we'll use that money towards the holiday. With a loan, you can't really do that. There's more responsibility there. So make sure you're researching the best loans out there if that is something that you're going to do. But initially, if you don't have the money, don't spend it. And so for example, I don't eat into my my credit card or my overdraft. It's there, and I know it's there. So if there's an emergency, like you lose your job due to COVID, then that money is there for emergencies and emergencies only, and you can dip into that. But I don't spend it. I don't have a trip into town and then just suddenly spend, my £500 overdraft because it's there. And I can, because I've got to pay that money back, right? So I don't want to. So that's what I mean by don't spend what you don't have, okay? Number 3, Be frugal with your invitations. Okay. So look, I'm talking now without the kind of whole hoo-ha of COVID going on at the moment, because I appreciate that there are limits on what you can invite if your wedding is sort of due to happen anyway. I'm just talking sort of generally here. So I've spoken about this before, and I'm really passionate about it. Don't invite people that you don't, not that you don't really know, but there's an obligation for you to invite your friends, for some people. But then there's also that added pressure of, well, do I invite their partner? And then that's when it adds up, okay? So my rule of thumb is, if you haven't spoken to that person in the last sort of 6-7 months, would you invite them? Okay, so if you think on average it's going to cost you, let's just say £100, okay, £100 to invite somebody to your wedding day. Even more than that, if you divide the cost of the whole thing by everybody as well, I mean, that's just the food and drink, right? So if you're dividing the whole cost of your wedding, take into account your wedding dress, your suits, your flowers, because that's going for their benefit as well, right? It's a lot of money. If you wouldn't spend that money on that person for a special occasion, don't invite them, okay? Be frugal. It's your money, right? And that's a lot of money. Morning. So, number 4, this one is really important. This one's really important. Invest the little buys into something bigger, okay? And this doesn't necessarily have to be for wedding planning. This could be just in general, okay? So, this happens a lot, and I talk to a lot of couples that do this, where they will be perusing Amazon or the wonderful internet, and they'll come across something that they really like, okay? It could be wedding favours, it could be gifts for your family, your bridesmaids, that sort of thing. And, oh, wow, it's only 20 quid. I'm going to get that. Okay, and then you do the same thing in a few days' time. And then the following week. And then you pop into town and you spend 80 quid on something, or, so all these little buys that you're not necessarily taking into account in your wedding budget, if you have one, will add up, okay? So, hi Kirsty. What you need to do is think about these little things. So, for example, oh, thank you. I've lost my train of thought now. Yesterday, I popped into town and I spent 80 quid on clothes. No, I didn't have a budget for that. I didn't, and I do have a budget. I have a monthly budget. So the budget planner I was talking about earlier, I actually use that for my personal spending. So I track all of my income, all of my outgoings, and what is left over is then divided for me to spend on things like food, petrol, necessities, and for me to go shopping. But I don't necessarily put money aside each month to go clothes shopping, but we all do it, right? My point is, I'm saving for other things in my life. So had I put that 80 quid towards that big thing that I want to buy, it would have been much more manageable. So I'll give you an example, okay? Let's just say there's something that you want for your wedding that you don't think you can afford. And 9 times out of 10, this will be something like a videographer, entertainment. So things like a really good magician. You could have like caricatures. You could have mind readers. You could have casino tables, photo booths, etc., right? So I'm just going to say, let's just say that costs, let's just say the item that you want is £1,000, just for argument's sake, okay? Each wedding is organised usually within 18 months of the day, okay? So if you divided that 1,000 by 18, it's going to give you 55 a month. Can you afford to put 55 a month aside for this big thing that you want, okay? Now divide that into 2, because there's 2 of you getting married, right? And then it's 27.77 a month. Can you afford that? You probably can, right? It's, one less takeaway a month. It's one less shopping trip. Guilty. So think about it like that, because aside from your budget, you do these little things where you pop into town and pick up a few things, okay? And whilst it might only be 20 quid, if you're doing that a lot, or even if you're doing it, you know, not a lot, that money will still add up. It will still go towards something, okay? It could mean the upgrade on the cake that you wanted. It could mean, you know, some extra pictures on your portfolio for your photography, okay? All of this money will go towards something, so just be careful with it. Point number 5 is you need to have a contingency fund, okay? So whatever your budget is, and again, like I said earlier, you might not have a budget, but I strongly recommend you work out what it is. Take 10% of that and you don't touch it. You leave it to the very end of your wedding day, okay? It's still sitting there, because anything could crop up between now and the time that you get married, okay? And what you don't want to happen is to then suddenly go, well, we've spent all of our money. We don't have anything. We can't pay for that. Whatever that scenario is that pops up, okay? So always pop that 10% to one side so you know that it's there in case of an emergency. And if you don't spend it, then you can pop into town and have your your shopping trip, or put it towards your honeymoon or a mini moon, or, you know, you can put it back into, you know, if you have then taken out a loan, you can then pop that money back into there, okay? So have that to one side. Okay, any questions? If you have, let me know and I can answer them for you. It's always good to think ahead, and I know budget planning isn't everyone's strong point. It is quite daunting to actually sit down and work out, one, how much you're going to spend, and two, sort of the reality of the money that's sitting there and knowing what you could spend with it. It's quite scary. But it is really, really important. It is important. And especially at the moment with everything that's going on with COVID, there's so many people who've lost their jobs. There's so many people that are actually struggling to find work and actually struggling at the moment. You know, a lot of people have put their wedding planning on hold because of that, you know, and that's scary, you know, because, you know, you got engaged and now you want to wedding plan and you can't because of COVID. So it may be that one or both of you have lost your jobs, and that's not a nice situation to be in. So it is really important that you figure all of this out, okay, regardless of whether you're getting married next year, 2020, 2023. It's really important that you plan that, you plan your budget and you know what you're spending, okay. So I'm going to summarise. I know we've had a few people just join us, so I'm going to summarise what I've just talked about, okay. How to manage your wedding finances. Number 1. Have a budget planner, okay? It doesn't matter how you're recording it or where you're recording it, just have one. I've got a free one that you can access, so please feel free to message me and I can send that to you. If you're having a million post-it notes put up, that's absolutely fine. If you've got your own method of recording your budget, then do it. That's absolutely fine. But just make sure you're making a note of your incomings, you're making a note of your outgoings, so you know exactly what you're spending and when, what is owed and when, so you can stick to your budget, okay, and your wedding finances along your wedding planning journey. Number 2, don't spend what you don't have, okay? If the money's not there, don't spend it. Don't get into debt for your wedding. If you want to, that's fine. It's your wedding day. You do you, okay? Absolutely fine. But if it's not there, don't get into debt for it. It's not worth it. It really isn't. And if you are going to loan some money, make sure you do get a loan rather than a credit card, because like I said earlier, your credit card, you'll be more inclined to reduce the payments on there so that you can put it towards something else. With a loan, you've got a set amount that you have to pay back at set times. Okay, brilliant. Number 3, don't invite people that you don't want to. Okay, there's no pressure. There is no obligation for you to invite your best friend Joe's partner. If you've never met them, you don't know them, they don't know you, then, you know, it's nice. Of course, it is lovely that you can invite people and you can invite people's partners and things like that. But if it's not in your budget to do so, don't feel obliged to do it. Okay. Number 4, invest the little buys into something bigger. Okay, so stop spending your money in little bits here and there, because it will add up. So I gave you the example earlier, £1,000 spread over 18 months is £55, 55 pence a month. Okay, so that £1,000 can go towards something huge for your wedding day. So just bear that in mind when you keep, you know, popping onto Amazon and buying little bits here and there. It does add up, so make a note of it. Number 5, have a contingency fund. So 10% of your budget needs to be put to one side. It needs to be out of the way. You don't touch it. It's not even there. Secret money. Keep it there. Don't spend it even up until your wedding day, okay? It's sitting there because anything can happen between now and your wedding day. So you need to make sure that it's sitting there, and that, you know, if you do come across some kind of emergency, that money is there for you to dip into. That's what it's there for. It's so much reassurance. It's a comfort blanket to know that if something does crop up, you've got that money there and you were very sensible in keeping it to one side.